Hey guys, sorry this second part took me so long. I wanted to add voice over and tried to add more details, but it was taking forever, so here it is. I can't wait to make part 3.
At 5:03 a.m., Kageyama awoke with a dry, parched throat. Kageyama rose from the bed, blinking slowly as he moved to the side, trying to regain full consciousness. Once fully awake, he stood up and made his way to the door, opening it slowly to avoid waking any of the Tsukishima family members. Peering out into the hallway to ensure it was empty, he quietly made his way to the kitchen, only to find someone already there, drinking a glass of water. Ah, Tsukishima? What are you doing up? Kageyama asked curiously, though it caught him off guard to see someone else up at this hour. Tsukishima turned to face Kageyama, raising one eyebrow in curiosity. I could ask you the same thing, Kageyama, he said, awaiting Kageyama's response. Kageyama hesitated for a moment before responding. I woke up with a dry throat and needed some water. Tsukishima smirked slightly, a hint of amusement in his eyes. Figures, he replied, taking another sip of his water. You're always full of surprises, Kageyama. Kageyama frowned slightly, unsure whether Tsukishima was teasing him or just making an observation. Yet, well, it's not like I planned it, he muttered, glancing away. Kageyama was slightly confused and frustrated by Tsukishima's behavior, but he chose to ignore the teasing. Awkwardly, he stood there, unsure of what to do next. Tsukishima hummed softly under his breath, observing Kageyama's unexpected behavior. Seizing the opportunity, he refilled his own cup and extended it towards Kageyama with a casual remark. See you for breakfast. With that, he strolled down the hallway, heading towards his bedroom, leaving Kageyama visibly bewildered. Was it surprise that flickered across his face, or confusion? One thing was certain. Tsukishima's actions had caught him off guard, a twist that none could have foreseen, least of all Kageyama himself. As Tsukishima walked away, leaving Kageyama puzzled, a mix of surprise and curiosity flashed across his face. It was a side of Tsukishima he hadn't expected, and it left Kageyama intrigued, eager to unravel more about his enigmatic teammate. Okay, see you, Kageyama muttered in response, his mind racing to process the unexpected exchange. He glanced down at the cup in his hand, taking a sip as he replayed the moment in his head. Tsukishima's casual farewell had caught him off guard, leaving him slightly bemused yet strangely intrigued. As he mulled over the brief interaction, Kageyama couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Tsukishima's words than met the eye, a puzzle he was now determined to solve. At 7:15 a.m., Kageyama woke with a headache throbbing at his temples. He groaned softly, frustration evident in his furrowed brow. These moments of discomfort were all too familiar, always looming when he hadn't managed to get enough sleep. But this morning, the headache wasn't as irritating as usual. Perhaps it was because there were no loud arguments or shouting disrupting the peace. Instead, the soft murmur of people chatting about their mornings and gentle music playing in the background created a soothing atmosphere. Kageyama sat up in bed, taking a deep breath, and let the calm environment sink in. It was a welcome change, allowing him to start the day with a clearer mind and a sense of quiet contentment. This is nice, Kageyama murmured to himself, a soft smile forming on his lips. He stood up, stretched, and made his way to the door. As he walked to the kitchen, he spotted Tsukishima, or rather, Kei, chatting with his mother, Mrs. Tsukishima, who was busy stirring eggs in a pan. Flashback. God, all you do is bitch and bitch about things, Mr. Kageyama shouted at Mrs. Kageyama, his voice echoing through the house. She stood there, clearly irritated by something, her face a mask of frustration. Tobio, already dressed and ready for school, paused as he left his room, the familiar scene unfolding before him once again. He sighed inwardly, bracing himself for another turbulent morning. End of flashback. Ah, morning, you're one of Kei's friends, right? Mrs. Tsukishima greeted with a warm smile as she looked at the dark-haired boy who had just entered the kitchen. Kageyama, still shaking off the remnants of sleep, nodded in response, appreciating the friendly atmosphere. Kageyama stammered, nervously glancing at Kei, unsure of how to respond. They weren't really friends, were they? He stood there, silent and awkward, trying to find the right words. Just then, Kei's voice cut through the tension. Yes, Ma, he is, Kei said, his tone casual and reassuring. Mrs. Tsukishima's smile widened, clearly delighted by her son's words. Such a relief. I was a little scared it was only going to be Tadashi. Love the boy, but my sweet Kei needs more friends than one. Her voice was filled with genuine warmth and honesty, a stark contrast to what Kageyama wasn't used to hearing from his own parents. The kindness in her tone washed over him, making him feel unexpectedly relaxed and welcomed. At 11:44 a.m. in third period, Kageyama found himself spacing out in English class, a subject he could never quite grasp no matter how hard he tried. He sat there, staring blankly at the board, his thoughts drifting. All he could do was wait for lunchtime, counting down the minutes until he could escape the confines of the classroom and find some relief from his frustration. This is such a boring day, he mumbled under his breath, gazing out the window for the remainder of the class period. The world outside seemed far more interesting than the monotony of the lesson, and he longed for the bell to ring, signaling the end of his tedious wait. Funny enough, Kageyama had thought that Tsukishima's unexpected kindness that morning was a one-time fluke. But as days passed, he noticed more instances where Tsukishima was randomly kind, or whatever you might call it. These small, surprising gestures left Kageyama both perplexed and intrigued, making him reconsider his initial impressions of his enigmatic teammate. Weird, right? Who would have thought Tsukishima would show kindness to Kageyama, of all people? Everyone knew about their peculiar dislike for each other, but no one really delved into it because, well, it wasn't their business, right? On a Wednesday afternoon during volleyball practice, the team took a well-deserved water break after 2 grueling hours. Kageyama sat down, a towel draped over his face as he tried to catch his breath. Across the court, Tsukishima and Yamaguchi were engaged in a conversation, their voices a low murmur against the backdrop of the gym. Kageyama couldn't help but steal a glance in their direction, curious about what they might be discussing. You know, you've been somewhat different lately with Kageyama ever since the incident, Yamaguchi said, taking a sip from his water bottle. He looked up at the blonde-haired man standing in front of him, his curiosity evident. Tsukishima shrugged noncommittally, but Yamaguchi's words hung in the air, prompting a moment of introspection. Everyone has, Yamaguchi. Tsukishima finally broke the silence between them. I know that, but you're being more different than anything or anyone, Yamaguchi replied, crossing his arms as he looked at his best friend, his gaze steady and questioning. Oh, shut up. You're wrong. I haven't been different, Tsukishima retorted, a hint of defensiveness in his voice. Lie all you want, Tsuki, but we both know the truth, Yamaguchi countered, his tone firm as he held his friend's gaze. Yamaguchi wasn't wrong. Tsukishima had been acting differently. He would go out of his way to buy yogurts from the vending machines and discreetly leave them near Kageyama. The dark-haired, blue-eyed boy would find them and wonder who had left them, unaware of the subtle gestures Tsukishima was making. Until one day, a week before the first year's tests in English and math, Kageyama found himself struggling with his studies. His lack of attention in class had caught up with him, and he sat there, dumbfounded by the material in front of him. Suddenly, a voice broke through his frustration. Need help? He looked up, surprised to see none other than the blonde-haired boy standing before him. Tsukishima was offering to help. Kageyama hesitated. He didn't want to ask Tsukishima for assistance, knowing he'd likely be mocked. But with his parents constantly complaining about his grades, he realized he didn't have much of a choice. Reluctantly, he nodded. Yeah, I could use some help, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Okay, see me at the gate later after school, and I'll help you out, Tsukishima said, turning to walk away before Kageyama could respond. Kageyama watched him go, still processing the unexpected offer of assistance. Later, at Tsukishima's household, Kageyama sat at the table with his notebook open, jotting down notes as Tsukishima guided him through the material. The atmosphere was surprisingly calm and focused, with Tsukishima patiently explaining concepts and Kageyama diligently absorbing the information. The unexpected study session marked a rare moment of cooperation between the two. Tobio, Tsukishima said, placing his hand on top of Kageyama's to correct his mistake. I thought you were finally getting the hang of what I was saying. Clearly, you weren't, the blonde remarked. Kageyama froze slightly at the sudden touch, then snapped, turning red with embarrassment. Hey, are you calling me done? He retorted, his voice rising defensively. Are you calling yourself done? Tsukishima retorted, cocking his head as he looked at Kageyama with a bemused expression. Kageyama stayed quiet, unsure of how to respond. We'll end it here today and pick back up tomorrow, Tsukishima said, starting to clean up around them. Kageyama followed suit, tidying up his notes and feeling a mixture of relief and confusion about the day's unexpected turn of events. Tsukishima led Kageyama to the front door. As Kageyama was walking away, Tsukishima hesitated for a moment before speaking up softly. King, stay safe yet? And you're welcome here if you want, or whatever. It's not like I care. Kageyama was confused by what the older boy was trying to say, but he simply nodded, a small smile forming as he left. In Tsukishima-K's bedroom, he sat there with wide eyes, Yamaguchi's words replaying in his head. Fucking hell. I hate that he was right. Damn you, Tadashi. He muttered, smirking as he leaned back onto his bed and stared up at the ceiling. The realization of his own unexpected behavior settled in, leaving him lost in thought.